Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. Oh gosh. I am pretty tired. I just got back like a couple hours ago from a Fourth of July family trip to a resort. Resort makes it sound fancier, I think, than it was. Like a campground, I guess. We used to go there all the time as when I was younger. Went there 6 years ago. That was the last time we went. We decided to go back. It was tiring. It's very hot the whole time. And they stayed in like a cabin in the campground. I stayed in a nearby hotel. I got like a king whirlpool suite for myself. That was pretty good. I didn't have much interest being in a cabin. Yeah. Not a lot to say. It was not as nostalgic as I thought it would be. You know, we used to go there like every year. But that was as a child. As an adult, things are just different. It was a fine trip. I'd go back next year, but I didn't get a golf cart. And it's a big fucking hell, man. I can't even talk. I can't talk or play. I'm failing at both. Okay. You know, it's a pretty big campground. It's spread out. And I was actually in like a different resort, really, where the hotel was. And so everyone in the campground, like, there were golf carts everywhere. They rent out so many of those. And my sister had gotten one, but we had called and talked to the people, and there was this rule that you can't move between the two resorts with a golf cart. That's against the rules, because they're not owned by like the same company, and so they don't want to like intermingle really, which is weird. And so I was like, wow, okay, I guess it's against the rules. It turns out, though, that no one gives any shit about any rules whatsoever. And there were people just going back and forth with golf carts all the time. And there was no one on watch, you know, no one cared. It's like, whatever, who cares? So that was a lesson learned. Because there was just a lot of fucking walking. In like 90-degree weather. So if I go back, I'm gonna live and learn. Um, yeah, I mean, overall it was okay. It's not like a dream vacation for me or anything. But my Whirlpool suite was nice, and I got plenty of reading in on the stand, so that was good. And so, to compensate for taking this trip, I prepared another reading video for the Exploring series. Another Lord Blackwood tale. So that should be pretty good. That's coming out next Monday. And then after that, there's like 2 weeks where I'm probably going to finish the Ouroboros cycle. And then I'm going on another vacation because it's Gen Con. So I feel a little bad doing this many reading videos in quick succession. Because after this, after Gen Con, there's like a month, and then I'm moving. So I'll be taking another break for that. Luckily, people seem to like the reading video I did, so it's not the end of the world, but feels kind of wrong. God damn it. Yeah. So the Exploring series, we had Ouroboros Part 2, which performed mostly the same as the first part. And then I worked on Ouroboros Part 3, which will be interesting to see. You know, it's another sort of classic DJ Cactus overpowered entity type thing. I mean, there's sort of a somewhat interesting tale mixed in there. We'll see how it all goes over. And then, like I said, the next one is the Lord Blackwood reading video. So it's actually not done yet. I have to work on it yet, but it's shorter than the first tale. And it has a lot of French names and places that I can butcher. So that's good. As for Mangg's LPs, got the Sinking City, which seems to be a pretty popular LP so far. That'll be continuing this week, as well as Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, which is not quite as popular, but it exists. And that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything coming out that I need to pay attention to. Fucker. And that's it, I guess. There's not a whole lot else to say. I think this is going to be a pretty short episode, because I'm pretty tired. There was no roll manging to speak of. People were sick with summer illnesses, I guess. And there wasn't really much board gaming. I brought a few games along on the trip, but I never expect to play anything with my family. But we did end up playing a handful of games of cockroach poker. This is a nice little party-esque game, I suppose. You know, on the surface, that game is very just like... To a non-gamer, you just think like, oh, you just throw down whatever card and throw it at anywhere and say anything and just, okay, just bluffing stuff. But I showed them how there is strategy sometimes, even in a light little party game like that. So that was about all the gaming we did, and that's all there is to say. I don't think I'm going to have much to say about board gaming until Gen Con. Perfect. I'm a master shinobi. Yeah. Fuck. That's sort of it, isn't it? Jesus. Yeah. I saw Midsummer this week. I can't. I think it's best if this episode is super short. Jesus. Why did I pick Sekiro? I don't know. So Midsummer is the new movie by Ari Aster, who made Hereditary, which is one of my favorite recent horror movies. I think my expectations for Midsummer were pretty high. Because Hereditary was like so good and just so like disturbing. And so this was like a cult ritual type thing. I expected just the insanity to be way amped up. And people on Reddit discussing it months ago that had read like the script said, oh, it's like way more disturbing than Hereditary. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, man, this movie's going to be just insane. It ended up being fairly subdued. I mean, relatively so. Like in the mainstream grand scheme of things, probably most people would still consider it pretty weird. And I would say it was pretty weird, but I wouldn't say it was like nightmarish or disturbing. Ziggy came along to see it along with his wife. And his wife hates horror movies. Like, she always ends up with nightmares and stuff. And when we were going in, I was like, well, I'm shocked that you're here going to see this. Because I thought, this is going to be like a really fucked up movie. And when the movie ended, she said it was the stupidest movie she'd ever seen, which is pretty much what I expected her to say. But I don't think she ended up with nightmares. So even for someone that scares easily, it was not like a scary movie. And so in that sense, it's sort of disappointing. Hereditary, pretty clearly I can point to it and say that's a horror film. There you go. Midsummer, it's a little bit harder to say. It's got aspects of horror. And it is, I've seen plenty of like European cult, ritual, commune type films like that. And it's reminiscent of all of those. It was weird. I don't really get scared watching horror films, but I can recognize when something would be scary. And there wasn't much in there. There was a little bit of gore. But it was more like a film about like grief and, discovering a new family and finding, new connections and things like that. Sort of wrapped up in this weird commune type thing. I guess it's hard to explain. That is not to say it was a bad movie. I enjoyed it. And I'm sure I'll watch it again. But I still like Hereditary more, and I think my expectations sort of hurt it a little bit, which can happen with films. I expected to be like disturbed and unsettled and stuff like that walking out of the theater. But instead it was like, well, that was a really beautiful movie with some weird scenes in it and stuff. And it's like, okay. And I think I heard that he's like not doing a horror film next after this. Like he's gonna try something different. Which is a shame, because horror is going through like a really nice revival now with a lot of newcomer directors just experimenting and coming up with just incredible scripts for horror films. And so in recent times we've gotten just some awesome stuff really unexpectedly, like It Follows, Hereditary, The Witch, The Babadook, stuff like that is just like, holy shit, this is really good horror that's like nothing else we have. And so it's a bummer for, a director of one of those to move away from horror. Hopefully it's just temporary, but we'll see. I guess the point is I can see Midsummer being a very divisive film, even more so than Hereditary. I guess that's about it. I don't have much else to talk about. I mean, maybe I do. I'm just tired, and I just wanted to do this to check in. Because if I didn't do a Hanging with Mangg, I know some of you would suspect that I was dead. So, rest assured, I'm alive. There will be more Sinking City and Tactics Advance on the way. Ouroboros Cycle Part 3 coming tomorrow. And I guess that'll do us. That's what happens when you don't do roll manging, as we all know. Alright. So, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. See you fine folks next week.